Welcome back. The outgoing Secretary General of the Trades Unions Congress, Kofi Samoa, says the IMF program has failed to remedy the ailing economy. Mr. Samoa says government must revert to the homegrown policies to improve the country's economic situation.
Mr. President, IMF programs have never worked anywhere, and they will not work here. Your Excellency, the implementation of the single spine pay policy brought some relief to public sector workers in terms of salary increases between 2010 and 2012. Since 2013, however, public sector workers have been experiencing a decline in real value of their pay because the rate of increase of the base pay on the single spine salary structure has consistently lagged behind inflation. We appreciate the economic challenges in the last few years, but we can no longer accept a situation where public sector workers at the bottom of the salary scale are being driven into poverty because of the IMF program. There is a limit to what ordinary workers can endure.
Meanwhile, President Mahama has assured the labor unions this will be the last IMF program the country has gone into. Addressing the Congress of the TUC in Kumasi that will see the election of a new Secretary General of the Congress, President Mahama stated the challenges the country has faced necessitated the IMF program, which according to him is yielding good results.
Election year over expenditure has been the bane of our economic stability. I'm happy to note that this year, even though an election year, expenditure targets are still on track, and I intend to stick strictly to the budget and the Appropriations Act as approved by Parliament. And this is why I appeal to CLOSAG members to return to work. Ladies and gentlemen, acceding to demands to pay interim premiums will throw the budget completely off track and make nonsense of the sacrifices we have made together over the last year. I wish to assure you that it is government's intention to implement a comprehensive policy on payment of premiums starting from next year, and I've asked the Minister for Employment and Labour Relations to enter into an MOU with CLOSAG to this effect. I wish to reiterate my earlier statement that this is our ultimate IMF program. We're almost there. We'll finish hard. Next year is the last year of the program, and then we'll go back to Kofi's homegrown fiscal policy.
All right, let's do some analysis on this now. Joe Jackson is a political economist. He's joining us. Good evening, Mr. Jackson.
Hello.
Yeah, so we're grateful that you could join us. I need to find out from you how easy you think it will be for the country to return to the homegrown policies that have been widely touted from the Century Accord.
Almost impossible for us to return to the homegrown policy. Anyway, good evening to your viewers. But it will be almost impossible.
Why do you say almost impossible?
Well, there's a lot more at stake in this process than just a reversal of policy. There's what the market would consider as a return to the homegrown policy would mean that the government can kiss any hopes of a Eurobond goodbye, which means there's going to be a huge deficit that we don't know how to fill. It would also mean that the CD could go through a definite huge tumble in value. It will also mean that the government will, across board will find it impossible to borrow. We'll be looking at a Greek-style default if we did, and that's why you would notice that President Mahama said a determined no to going back on the IMF. It wasn't something that he considered or he said they would think about. It was a definite no.
So
the consequences are too dire to contemplate.
Does this suggest that the TUC perhaps is ill-informed about the benefits of the IMF program and the implications of returning to what we are calling the homegrown policies?
I would agree with you that the TUC is ill-informed or it's not working enough with economists. Now, remember that the TUC owes a duty to understand what the issues are to its members so that it can negotiate better, know when to back off and know when to press hard. Now, at this moment, I think the TUC is on such a completely wrong tangent that they need to go back and do their homework.
And do you think there would be grave implications if we completely go out of the IMF program? And there's
almost too grave to imagine. I actually don't think it is a possibility because of the and I'm glad that the president said a definite no.
But what implications will there be actually?
Well, first of all, remember that we don't live as a country. We don't live in isolation, and as a country at this moment, we need to borrow to survive. All our money is spent paying recurrent expenditure, and we've got debts coming up that we have no money to pay for, and that's why we are going to the market. Even with the IMF, notice that we were not able to undertake the latest tranche of the Eurobond and face a $1.5 billion hole in our budget. That, if we leave the IMF regime completely, like is being suggested by the TUC, we will not be able to borrow at all for a long time.
But Mr. Jackson, I mean, the argument of not going out of the program entirely is one argument, and then there is also the other argument where, for example, instead of passing the law for zero financing of government, this government passed a bill that will reduce it from the original 10% to 5%. That was a throw in the face of the policy and an arrangement, but we still stuck to it and made a law. So can we not, I mean, judging from that, now decide that we don't need the IMF and we go out completely?
Then you can decide to do homegrown things. If you need to borrow, then you've got to look at what the consequence of your actions on the people who will lend to you. As simply as that.
So, moving forward, I mean, I know that the president has made promises. For example, he has told CLOCSAG that next year they will consider their, demands for interim premium and all of that. What we don't know is how the election outcomes will go. But what is the outlook for the year ahead? For example, particularly next year when this IMF program is finished, what does it look like for the country in terms of its economic management?
Well, what I tell you is that there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty is bad for businesses, it's bad for the economy. We're not sure what is happening. The latest blow of the Eurobond being aborted has created even more uncertainty. And at this moment, I think it is too early to say a definite that it will be a bad.
Okay.
The outlook is extremely bad, but I can tell you that there are difficulties ahead for next year.
You're not hopeful then?
Not hopeful is too strong at this moment. There are still a few.
You're not optimistic
before we come out with a definite statement. Will they be able to go back and get a euro bond? Will the spending for this quarter go out of hand again? Will the IMF come back to the table and present and give us a good report? All those things will affect our outlook for next year.
Mr. Joe Jackson, we're grateful. Thanks very much for your time. Joe Jackson is a political economist, and you're watching News at 10. We're live from our studios here in Accra.